Saturday is the $1 million North America Cup at Woodbine Mohawk Park. It's a great night of racing, 13 races, $200,000 guaranteed pick fives, a $213,000 jackpot high five mandatory payout in race number 13. We're going to focus our attention here on the North America Cup, and what a field they put together, Jay.
You know, this may be the most competitive field they've had in quite some time. I don't know if it's the best group of horses. It's hard to say who's best right now because it's so early in the season. But, you know, having 4 eliminations and having 4 horses have to win to guarantee spots in the final. I mean, you could see from top to bottom, it's a well-matched field. And quite frankly, you know, 5-2, you know, you might get 5-2 at the, you know, at post time because, you know, you're going to be reaching for a lot of different horses here.
We're going to review the whole field, break it down one by one. We're going to start with looking at the first replay, which is Confederate winning his elimination, and he's going to end up beating Lion Surfing here, and those are going to be the only 2 to advance from this one, Jay.
You know, Confederate Tim Tetrick did what he wasn't surprising. Go to the front, don't take any chances, and just keep your horse alive in the stretch. Obviously, you know, you see the whip taps there. You just don't want him to get a little too lazy on you, you know, knowing that you get a spot in the final and get a post position draw. So very good. And Lion Surfing was pretty good second.
Do you see Confederate maybe switching it up for the final and going with more off the pace tactics?
You know, it's a tough thing to read, Derick. I mean, a lot of times you think you can be cute and race from off the pace, and unfortunately, Confederate was cute in last year's Breeders' Crown final, and he never got into the race because he was so far back. So, you know, I think it's a combination of not being too careful, and I think that aggressiveness is going to win this race.
We're going to take a look at the next replay, and that features It's My Show, who made the final, along with Save America, Jay.
You know, what was impressive about It's My Show last Saturday night versus the Sunday prior was that he just looked so much more relaxed on the front end, did everything he had to do. I mean, to zip out from the rail and seat 3 horses going to the first turn, that's not an easy thing to do at Woodbine Mohawk Park. And Scotty was able to do it, relax the horse, and then sprint again. I thought that was rather impressive. It's much better than we saw him the week before.
The inside post position, I think, is interesting here because if he had drawn post 6, he probably would have just gone to the top and tried to seed everyone else. Here, he's got to be a little bit more tactical, I think, Scotty.
You know, I think it's the same boat, though. I mean, if you think you're the best horse, I don't think you want to be sitting, for long at any point in time. So, while you say it's good, I still say it requires 2 moves. It's going to require leaving around the rail horse more than likely, and being no worse than 4th at the quarter, and then coming again before the half. So, I think he's in a better position to be aggressive, but he's not going to be able to walk out of the gate from post 2 and get the front. He's going to still have to earn it.
Speaking of aggressive, we saw Save America 2 starts back, gun to the front, go crazy fraction, set up a big mile. And then last week, Yannick was really patient with the horse and took his chances sitting in.
I think the effects of gelding the horse, may have taken a few weeks to kick in, but I think they've kicked in rather well. And I think a horse that he drove with lack of confidence, probably in the qualifiers and even in his first race, you see he's driving a lot more confidently there. He wasn't worried about making the final. I think he felt he had plenty of horse. He would be okay. And obviously the horse's behavior is giving him that indication. And, as I said before, and you probably know, I mean, Giwner draws post 9 for the final. That's just a ticket to like, okay, how fast do I really want to leave? Because he's going to leave.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that statement. We're going to look at replay number 3 that we have on store for you. And this one's Fulton winning. And also coming out of this limb is Ammo and Redwood Hanover, who I thought raced really well on cover.
I think Redwood Hanover raced great in the Sun Beach somewhere. I thought he raced great in the North America Cup elimination. And, in all honesty, the fact that he's getting James McDonald, who's taking him even with an outside draw for the final, says what James McDonald thinks about the horse. So clearly, Redwood Hanover is a horse, even though he drew post 8, has to be considered a real factor in this race. I mean, he's just been getting better at the right time.
Fulton, they said they made a bridle change last week. To me, he was a much better horse last week than we had seen previously, even though he was pretty good before that. Do we just think that, hey, this bridle change woke this horse up and now he's a new horse?
I don't think he was bad in the Sun Beach somewhere, to be honest with you. He did a lot of the heavy lifting there. He had to leave the gate. He was first over a long way. Dexter probably wasn't going full bore with him in the Sun Beach somewhere either, figuring that the eliminations were a week away, and obviously the North American Cup final was the following week. So, I think all systems are go. Fulton's a player. I mean, he's a player, and he's a player that can race on the front or off the pace. So I think Dexter's got good position and a chance to use a horse that's versatile.
One more limb to take a look at, and that is Christchurch, who's winning. Also out of this limb is Moment is Here, and we also have Bucephalus, who obviously made a miscue early in the mile.
A miscue is a nice way of putting it. I mean, I thought the horse was, had his head on the floor on the first turn, and Jordan Stratton. I mean, the fact that he's actually in the picture coming to the wire is rather remarkable. But I thought the horse was fantastic, and Christchurch for all the hype and everything about his pedigree and what he is. I mean, he got a pocket trip there, or a 3-hole trip, and converted it. And the other horse, he just had a horrendous trip.
Does it say a little something that Dexter Jones chose off Christchurch to go to Fulton?
I think it says a lot, but I think it's the inexperience of Christchurch at this level. I think it's also when you're stepping up, Fulton's been against those other horses, and Christchurch hasn't been against those other horses and been successful. And I was kind of thinking that being that Nancy Tack had 2 horses in the race, I was wondering whether Yannick was going to switch to Christchurch over Save America, figuring he got a better spot and maybe a better horse, and he didn't switch either. So, maybe that says something about Christchurch.
A lot of these times you sit down to handicap a race, you try to figure out how it might work out on paper. I mean, this is a race where you look at it and, Amo could leave the gate. You mentioned Save America could leave the gate. Redwood Hanover has left the gate. Some of the horses on the inside like to be near the lead. I mean, this could be a wild race where we see some sort of crazy things happen.
It's a question of who wants to park who. I mean, I think like you said, if the wrong horse leaves, he's getting parked. If all the horses with real talent leave, you're gonna have to make a decision on letting them go or not. I don't know who the wrong horse is. I mean, like you said, Redwood Hanover, I think belongs in the race. Save America belongs in the race. Amo, I don't know. I've never seen Dave Miller be that kind of guy who's just going to blast from post 10 when he knows maybe 2 guys inside of him are going to leave. I don't know about that. Yannick never seems to be intimidated by anybody behind the gate. So I think, Save America's heading out. And James McDonald, I think he's not intimidated by anything over this track. I think Redwood Hanover will want to be closer to the action. They're going to sprint that first 1/8 of a mile, and then you're going to see where holes show up, and who fits into those holes.
I had a hard time really trying to come to a horse that who I felt really confident in this race. Ended up my end of the day, I went with It's My Show as my top pick because I feel like I've seen the most from him, and he's shown me the most guts throughout his miles, and he's just everything that's been thrown at him he's done well with. And Confederate's in my second spot. I think he might be the fastest horse. I just think he'll need the right trip to win. I don't think he can go to the lead and get pressure after pressure after pressure and still keep going. And Bucephalus, who's third, who's your top pick, who I'm really not sure what this horse is capable of yet, because I think last week was the week we were supposed to see how good he is, and he made that break. Maybe we did see how good he is because he came back.
I think the thing that boils down to for me is who is the fastest horse in the last 1/8 of a mile. And I've seen Bucephalus come home in 24 and change. I've seen Confederate come home in 24 and change. I haven't seen It's My Show come home in 24 and change just yet, or at least I don't think I've seen it. And I think as a complete horse, It's My Show has clearly looked the best of any of these horses entering the race. That said, a lot of the other horses haven't played in this company. Confederate's first start last week against this company. And the Bucephalus, a lot of people played him off because he was a New Jersey Sire Stakes horse. And, I kept on hearing he just beat Lazarus's, and that's all he beat was Lazarus's. But, I was just blown away by a horse recovering the way he did. It's in the old days, horses did recover from breaks, but they weren't going in 48 and change, recovering from breaks. They weren't leaving in 25 and change and then coming home in 25 and change, recovering from breaks. So the fact that, I thought the horse took a header on the first turn and it was over. He's never coming back. They walked to the half. He wasn't the beneficiary of that. And he legitimately did get out kicked by the winner, but the winner sat a trip. And in this game, we've seen enough of the races this game. If you're sitting a trip and the other horse has to come from nowhere, the trip horse usually wins the race. So I can't give Christchurch enormous credit for the victory, but I thought Vukovalis did everything he could. And I mean, I'm hoping that he uses one strategy on Saturday night, and the strategy that I would use is follow Confederate wherever he goes. Just stay on Confederate's back. You don't care whatever Timmy does. You just do likewise. You just follow along, and hopefully Timmy takes you to the right spot, because he drives $1 million races with regularity. Jordan Stratton, not so much.
You mentioned earlier that you thought the favorite might be about 5-2 in here. In an era where everyone watches every single replay and everyone's keen to everything, and they love that bad trip horse, or that horse that makes that move, kind of like Vukovalis. If he ended up at 5-2 on the board, is that still a horse you're betting in this race?
No way. No, not at 5-2. No. And I don't think he'll be, because Jordan Stratton doesn't rate, doesn't get the money that a Tetrick would, that a James McDonald would, that a Dexter Dunn would, Scotty Z, Money Man. I mean, I think those horses are going to get played. And it's 10 horses in this race. A lot of horses can get bet. I think they'll be spreading money around this race, and rightfully so. And I don't think, even though we both are on the same 3 horses, a lot wouldn't surprise me here, as far as, like you said, if things get out of hand, where we're at the half and 52, I don't know. I mean, when I talked to Bob McIntosh about, moment is here, it's like, he wouldn't put him in the greatest horses he ever had category, but he says he's a horse that tries, and he tried last week. I mean, unfortunately, he got into the final, but trip worked out. He left hard, got himself into the final, and he got a good spot. Dan Dubé's won some of these big races before. I mean, he can make a horse go fast for an eighth of a mile. So I'm not thinking these 3 horses are guaranteed here. And, I know they're good. I think they all deserve, but, you can tell me, is there a horse in the race that can't win? I don't know. I mean, and that's a rarity for me, to be in $1 million race and not be able to tell you, I can definitely throw this one out. I can't. Can you?
No, I mean, the only horse I would consider throwing out is maybe Lion Surfing of the group. That horse really hasn't proven to me yet that horse can go what might be a 47-mile to win this race. But other than that, I mean, I guess any of the other horses could win.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's my show, from the point of where we stand right now, as far as what he's did, and certainly how good he looked in his elimination. Yes, Confederate, my only question on Confederate, even Timmy said it, I don't want to put him on the front end all the time. I mean, I've talked to Brett, Pelling about the horse a lot. And, he's got scary high speed, this horse. But, you and I both know one thing about these races. Sometimes it comes down to guts and not about extreme speed. And I don't know if he's got the guts. And I don't know who does have the guts, to be honest with you. I mean, so far, who's been tested for guts? Maybe Saturday night we're going to find out.
Well, Saturday night, it's a can't miss race. Should go up just about 10:45, maybe a little bit after. It's race 11 on a 13 race card. You can get free PPs, DRF.com/harness. Just click on a banner and you'll go right off to those free PPs. 200K pick 5s, races 1 and 7. Race 7 is an all stakes one. Huge carryover in the mandatory pad high 5, race number 13, 213,000, I believe it is. It's a great night of racing. I can't wait for it. Jay can't wait for it. Good luck.